Founded in 1985, the Organic Trade Association grows and protects organic with a unifying voice. OTA now represents the over $63 billion organic industry, representing more than 10,000 businesses and organic voices from across the nation through our membership and the Farmers Advisory Council. OTA members come from across the industry and supply chain, including growers, processors, certifiers, farmer associations, brands, consultants, retailers, and so many more. We strive to create a strong, trusted, and valued organic brand by protecting and advancing the organic regulations and developing a resilient marketplace where our diverse members can thrive. We're so excited to have you here today to talk about the organic sector's priorities in the 2023 Farm Bill. I appreciate our members, coalition partners, and media for joining us. We have three esteemed colleagues joining me here today from the Organic Trade Association's board. Matt Dillon, founder and owner of Risk to Resilient Strategy, Britt Lundberg, Senior Director of Sustainability and Government Affairs at Stoningfield, and Adam Worthison, Director of Government and Industry Affairs for Organic Valley. The three of them will be covering the successful history of organic in past farm bills and the importance of it to our sector, how we've engaged with organic stakeholders and our membership to identify the most pressing needs facing organic, and the priorities that we're advocating for to address those very needs. Lastly, we'll have our new Senior Director of Government Affairs, Peter Mihalik, to review engagement as we further our advocacy of these organic priorities. With that, I'll hand it off to Matt Dillon to discuss organic and the Farm Bill. Matt?
Thanks, Tom. So before we jump into the organic trade's priorities for this Farm Bill, I think it's important that we talk a little bit about what the Farm Bill is. And it really depends on who you ask. At the most boring basics, the Farm Bill is an omnibus bill that governs an array of agriculture and food programs, and it happens every 5 years or so. But there are different opinions about what the Farm Bill is as well. The Heritage Foundation has a somewhat cynical take on it, in that they believe it's a multi-billion-dollar, they call it a tangle of agricultural subsidies, welfare payments, and environmental patronage. But that cynicism aside, those of us who work in ag and food know that the reality is that the Farm Bill touches our food system from seed to plate. While nutrition funding is the largest part, it is very much a Farm Bill, impacting the financial well-being of farmers and ranchers, and either incentivizing or disincentivizing the conservation of natural resources like soil, water, animal and crop genetics. It also provides farmers with the technical assistance that they need to improve these activities and improve the intergenerational success and well-being of their farms. Now, who makes a Farm Bill is really a simple answer. It's all of us. Certainly it's House and Senate Ag committees, the full Congress, the president. Historically, the agribusiness has weighed in, and more recently, the food sector, grassroots, consumer, and civil society groups have weighed in. But that is really a more recent development in the history of the Farm Bill. But it's an important development because it gives us all the ability to shape the future of our food system. So in addition to the organic programs that we're going to discuss today, I think it's important to point out that in addition to organic, the Farm Bill addresses equity and opportunity in ag, climate change, food waste, rural economies, land access for the next generation, regional and urban food systems. Sustainable packaging is even looking at making it a play into this Farm Bill. And I mention this because it's important that we understand the landscape of who else is jockeying for power and resources in the Farm Bill, and where we might find and expand and make adjacent coalitions that can help carry our organic issues. Now, for organic, why the Farm Bill is important, I think there's a couple things I want to point out why it's important. If you want to complain about our federal government and our political system, but you're not actively engaged in civic responsibilities from voting, organizing, and advocating, well, you share a burden of the blame. And that's the case with us as a sector. If we're not at the table actually advocating for ourselves and our farmers, we shouldn't be disappointed when we're disappointed. So we have to show up. We have to have a placeholder and engage actively. And the Farm Bill does impact all of our businesses on here. If you're a consumer brand, an aggregator, an input provider, a farmer, this bill will impact your business. If you want that impact to be positive, then engagement is necessary. And if you want that engagement to be effective, it's best to find a coalition. And for me, historically, when it comes to organic, OTA is the coalition. The association's success in past farm bills, which I'll touch on in a moment, is a prime example of how we indeed are stronger together. And so with that, why don't we go, Libby, to the slide on some history of the organic and the farm bills. So really, 1990 was a watershed moment for organic and the farm bill. That's really when the organic was codified into law through the Organic Foods Production Act and established the national organic standards and labeling. In 2002, when the actual program launched, we also got some of our first powerful programs to make sure that organic continued to improve. We got the Organic Research and Extension Initiative, providing research that would move organic forward and improve farmers' success. Organic Production and Marketing Data Initiatives, Organic Certification Cost Share. In 2014, we focused in on organic integrity. We helped the NOP modernize and increase funding for technology. And that continued on in 2018, where we were able to start closing some loopholes and creating better fraud prevention and the strengthening organic enforcement that many of you have heard about going live in recent weeks. Finally, in 2018, we also had a huge win with $50 million in annual mandatory funding for organic research, no longer having to fight in appropriations. And we're going to hear a little bit more about where we want organic research to go in this farm bill in just a moment. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Britt Lundgren from Stonyfield. There you go, Britt.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm going to talk about how these Farm Bill priorities were developed for OTA's 2023 platform, and then I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on some of the pieces of the platform. So starting with the how, this coalition that Matt was talking about is so important to how OTA forms its policy positions, and the organization really centers on recommendations from its membership, particularly from farmers. So OTA's Farm Bill platform comes first and foremost from the Farmers Advisory Council, which is one of the largest coalitions of organic farmers and farming organizations in the US. And the Farmers Advisory Council represents more than 9,500 growers. So it's quite a big group, and it's inclusive of all regions and all types of agriculture, including meat and livestock and dairy, grains, fruits, and vegetables. But in addition to that work with the Farmers Advisory Council, OTA has also been working to really listen to the broader organic community and bring those perspectives in. And one of the ways this happened in the past couple of years is through a series of workshops focused on continual improvement in organic. And these workshops brought together nearly 300 certifiers, growers, consumer-facing brands, retailers, and nonprofit organizations to determine the policies that would support organic into the future. And so out of all of this work, both the Advisory Council and these workshops, 3 priority areas emerged that will advance the sector's shared goals around growing the global organic marketplace and bringing further economic benefits to US producers. And these are really center around responsive organic standards, supporting thriving farmers, and advancing more resilient supply chains in the organic sector. So for responsive organic standards, we're really talking about standards that uphold the integrity of the organic label and are responsive to how consumer expectations evolve in the marketplace. For thriving farmers, we're talking about both the conservation benefits that organic farmers create and how we better support those, as well as having fair and equitable support for research and risk management for organic producers. And then looking at supply chains, we're looking at how can we make supply chains more resilient in the face of both the risks that we know and the risks that we haven't yet seen from disease, weather, and increasing costs. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to focus in a little bit more on this concept of responsive organic standards. And this really starts with making sure that USDA has adequate funding to do their job. And Matt was talking earlier about the history of OTA wins in Farm Bill advocacy. And I think this is really like the first case in point is just looking at the trajectory of funding for the National Organic Program over the course of the past 20 years. We've really seen the agency funding for NOP finally get to a level that allows the agency to do the work that needs to be done to maintain the standard and to maintain organic integrity. That's not to say, though, that more can't be done there. And so we're calling for an increase in annual funding for NOP that would keep pace with industry growth. So we are at a place now where the Farm Bill authorizes $20 million per year to support a $60 billion a year industry. We think that's a pretty good bargain for the government. And we want to see that funding continue to keep pace with growth with a 10% increase each year to a $24 million per year authorization over the life of the Farm Bill. We also want to see this Farm Bill continue mandatory funding of $5 million for NOP to upgrade and maintain its technology systems. It's so important, especially as NOP moves into this new era with strengthening organic enforcement, that they have the technology to match their enforcement goals. So we'll be calling for that funding as well. Then looking at the concept of continual improvement, which has been a big focus of the workshops and a big topic of conversation in this sector. These pieces were initially packaged as a marker bill that was introduced by Congressman DeFazio in the last Congress. And of course, we've seen some turnover in the makeup of Congress, and we are now looking at how we move these continual improvement priorities forward for inclusion in the Farm Bill. But the priorities themselves remain unchanged. And first and foremost, this is about updating OFBA to make sure that there is a predictable timeline for reviewing and updating the organic regulations in a way that will meet consumer expectations in the evolving marketplace. So I think probably everyone on this call can name at least one or two examples of organic regulations that have taken many years between the point where the industry or the sector made a recommendation to the agency and to the point where the agency acted on that recommendation. We're looking to shorten that time span. We're also looking to increase NOP oversight of certifiers so that we can ensure that standards are interpreted and implemented consistently. And this includes integrating material review organizations into the existing certification system to make sure that that process is a part of overall organic accreditation and third-party material review. And then the third piece here is looking at improving public confidence in the organic label. And this comes from strengthening the authority of NOP to take enforcement actions when there are false or misleading organic claims on agricultural products. So making sure that when consumers see that organic label in the store, they can trust that it means what it's supposed to mean. Let's go now to conservation. So this is one of the pieces of the Thriving Farmers part of OTA's platform, and it's really centered around recognizing the many environmental benefits that are being created by organic farming systems. And there are a couple of different ways that we think this can be done in the upcoming Farm Bill. The first is to increase and prioritize funding for the EQIP Organic Initiative and the Conservation Stewardship Program for those conservation practices that build soil health, like cover cropping and crop rotations, organic soil amendments, and conservation tillage. This will help make sure that any organic producer or producer who's transitioning to organic who goes into NRCS looking for support with that process has access to funds through these programs and doesn't fall through the cracks in the NRCS ranking system. The second piece here is to help recognize the ecosystem services that are delivered by organic operations by integrating organic system plans that are done for the National Organic Program certification into current and future USDA conservation, pollinator, and climate smart verification programs. So we know that organic systems create ecosystem services through their practices, but we need to be able to document that in order to ensure that organic producers can take advantage of emerging ecosystem services and carbon markets. And one easy way for them to do this is when they're engaged with USDA conservation programs to be able to make sure they track the practices and the benefits associated with those practices. So we see a lot of opportunity here to just make sure that we're adequately recognizing the benefits created by organic systems. So now I am going to turn it over to Adam to talk more about the thriving farmers and resilient supply chains portions of the Farm Bill platform.
Hey, Adam, you're on mute.
Well, I just had a really powerful argument that I think everyone missed, so I'll try again. I work every day with farmers, day in, day out at Organic Valley, and I want to talk a little bit more about the thriving American farmers, because there are over 17,000 certified organic operations in the U.S. and thinking about how do we resource and support those farmers that are growing for the organic marketplace has been really fundamental to OTA and the Farmer Advisory Council that Britt talked about earlier. Organic production does have some different challenges and needs, and one of the central points that we're looking at is equitable research and risk management. So probably the flagship for research within organic is the Organic Research and Extension Initiative. It's been really important to help enhance that production base and provide resources that then create learnings that then are applied on the farm. And so we're looking to grow the Organic Research and Extension Initiative to $100 million annually by the end of 2023, or at the end of the Farm Bill. The next set is on data, really, is you have research, this question on data, and what does that data provide for the industry and for the farmers. I have farmers that talk to me all the time that say, I fill out survey after survey at USDA. Isn't there a way that we could have a better understanding what the organic industry looks like, that we could have a checkbox on just, I'm organic, so we understand what's that look like in dairy production, or what that looks like in, specialty crops, or what that looks like in grain production. That data is increasingly important, and so that's one of the areas that we're putting a lot of focus, along with also increasing the mandatory funding for the Organic Data Initiative to $10 million over the life of the Farm Bill. That data clearly it informs then risk management tools that are really anchored at RMA, and we have ideas on how to improve those tools, because farm bills have become increasingly, I think, at least on the farm side, looking at how do those risk management tools help farmers deal with the vagaries of weather or markets. So looking at things like eliminating the contract price addendum that currently exists, or codifying support for farmers that are transitioning into organics that either have premium support or they can use their existing tea yield on their farms. So those are a couple of the good examples, along with how do we continue to recognize, good farming practices. Cover crops has made a lot of progress on this front in all of agriculture, but cover crops have been really something that's been happening in organic agriculture for, decades. Why don't we flip to the next slide, because I'll talk a little bit about resilient organic supply chains. Thriving farmers are only thriving if they can get their product to market, right? And then that product that gets to market then can find its way to consumers. And we need to have supply chains that are resilient and stronger in going into the future. So there's a few different areas that we're really putting a focus on. So one of those is really codifying some of the work that we've seen come out of the USDA around the Organic Transition Initiative. And there's sort of three buckets there, right? There's some technical assistance that's provided to farmers. There's some direct farmer assistance. I spoke about that a little bit around the crop insurance piece. But then there's also pinpoint market development, so that we're, not transitioning just farmers in a place that they can't get, let's say, grain cleaned and then into a rail car and then into a marketplace where it's processed whether that's into feedstuffs or into food grade products for human consumption. So that initiative, out of the USDA has $300 million they were setting it. Let's continue to build on that and strengthen that into the Farm Bill into the future. Another area we're looking at that's been popular with producers is the certification cost share program. It costs something to be certified, and so we're looking to grow that from 50% to 75%. And especially for those that are really new to entering organic agriculture, and those producers that have been historically underserved. Those are really a population that needs that support. And then I'm going to speak a little bit to increasing the mandatory funding for USDA's local agriculture market program, and having a certain carve out within the value added producer grant program that is focused on organics. I think these two things about like moving farmers closer to consumers and also, moving organic, up the value chain on the farm or at a processing facility that brings, from that farm gate to a more enhanced product. And then lastly, we are, seeking support to increase market access program funding up to $400 million and the foreign market development program up to nearly $70 million per year. So, I think these are really fundamentally important as we look at organics has grown more globally. And there are more opportunities to bring, what we grow in the US and provide it worldwide. If you think about, dairy as one example, which is the space I live into, the conventional dairy side had about a record year of exports. No, I'm not interested in necessarily all organic is going to go, all exported, but we have a really strong domestic market, but I think we can bring additional organic products worldwide, and that'll provide more opportunity for farmers in the US. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Senior Director of Government Affairs at our OTA, and that's Peter Mahalik.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Adam, for tossing it on over here. We believe that these priorities cover a wide gamut of potential positive impacts for organic, and we hope to continue to build on the successes of the past and find those opportunities for organic in the future. Just to briefly recap, we're looking at continuous improvement and accountability and organic standards by improving the processes at USDA. We're talking about additional funding and programs that make conservation a priority and attack issues involving the climate. We're looking for research and data collection to better, and capture the space of organic and adjust the USDA programs to address the market, particularly in the crop insurance and risk management sector. We're looking at a certification cost share, as well as technical assistance for new farmers to their organic space. And we're looking for market and infrastructure development to export those opportunities and those products, both here domestically and overseas. And with that, I would like to extend the opportunity and the offer for all of you watching today to get involved with us here at OTA. In some ways that you can do that, you can join the Farm Bill Task Force. You can sign up for the U.S. Government Affairs Forum, on which we post regular updates, including recaps of hearings, things going around on Capitol Hill, potential opportunities for input from our membership. Additionally, we'll be posting opportunities to participate in grassroots initiatives. We'll be putting out a template in the next week or two for those that wish to provide comments to the House and Senate leadership of the agricultural committees. They have a nice little form that you can fill out, and we'll be more than happy to provide some information, and you guys can add your story as necessary and submit that. They welcome that feedback. And if you have any questions, you can contact me. My email address is right there on the screen. Additionally, in May, from the 9th to 11th, we'll be having Organic Week, which will be an opportunity for us to hit the hill and really show off the strength of our membership. We'll be planning on hill visits for all those attending. And I think that in my brief time here so far, that members of Congress are really looking for input from their constituents and really welcome the sort of the message that organic has. I think it will be a great opportunity for you to explain directly to those members of Congress how those rules that we've talked about and those initiatives that we've discussed make a positive impact for your operation. And lastly, you can get involved with our organic pack. I would encourage all of you to take a look at the website. I know there's a lot of questions about what organic pack does. In short summary, it's the political tool that we use to support those members of Congress that support us. So please look at getting involved with that. We'll be having some events over the course of the next couple of months, further into the year, as we look to shape and control the message from our organization to Congress on our priorities. And with that, I'd like to toss it back to Libby so that she can wrap it up.
Great. Thank you so much, Peter. It's so great to have you with us on the team and looking forward to having you connecting to our members and all the coalition partners in attendance today. Again, I want to extend a major thanks to our board members who have joined us today, to Adam, Britt, and Matt, as well as to Tom and Peter for walking through the 2023 Farm Bill. A few reminders before we wrap up. The first I'll say is that for those members of the media who did sign up to participate in our media Q&A, we will launch that at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. You should have that link. If you have any issues, please reach out to Violet Batcha, or you can reach out to me directly, and we'll make sure that you can join us. And the other thing I will quickly note is that you can stay up to date. Everyone here at this call can stay up to date on the 2023 Farm Bill priorities from the Organic Trade Association at ota.com/Farm Bill. I just shared that link as well as a few of the other links that Peter shared. Finally, we will have a brief survey after. Let us know if you're a member how to sign up and connect with the Government Affairs Forum, with the Farm Bill Task Force, with the PAC as well. We need you engaged with all of us. On behalf of the Organic Trade Association staff and our board of directors, thank you so much for joining us today. And please, everyone, have a wonderful day.